In this demo, I'm gonna present Unity's NavMesh and NavMesh agents. Right now, we're looking at Mixamo because I'm using one of Mixamo's characters and a couple of its animations for the NavMesh agent. And one of the things that I need, so I'm going to have this character walk around an environment. So before I download it, I want to make sure that I download it as walking in place, because any movement from one coordinate to another coordinate, I want it to happen through Unity, not as part of the animation. So also I downloaded this mannequin character with its skin already in the T-pose. So in this case, either the FBX binary or FBX for Unity will work, and I'm gonna download it without skin because I just want the data for the keyframes for the animation. I already have this, so I'll cancel it and close out Mixamo and switch over to Unity. So here I have a Unity project. I have an empty scene just with the default main camera and directional light. I have a few folders set up. One folder is called animations, characters, prefabs. I created a scenes folder, and right now it's just this recording demo scene. I have some scripts that I'm going to be using: agent control, destroy object, spawn, and waypoints. And I have the starter first person starter asset, Unity starter asset for the first person controller. So I'm going to begin by adding an environment. So I'll go ahead and just use a 3D object plane in the hierarchy, call it ground. And I'm going to make it a bit larger, 10 by 10 on the X coordinate and the Z coordinate as far as scale. I'm going to add a few walls, and those will be spheres. I'll scale that up. Maybe I'll have these be 20 by 10 tall. And see what that looks like. Make sure to pull them out of the plane. And I will duplicate those, this wall. Call it 2, and the third one. So right now they're just all stacked on top of one another in the same coordinate. So I'm gonna select them one by one, move them about. Well, I'll shift on 90 degrees. And all 3. Maybe I'll add one more. I'll duplicate. The one that I already turned by 90 degrees. Okay. I might move these around later. I have some materials. There's just basic materials. I'm gonna add a material to the ground, and then I should have done these before duplicating them. Add blue to the walls. Okay. So I'm going to nest all these environment game objects, ground, and the walls into an empty game object and call it environment. So they're all grouped together. I'm going to add the first person controller. I'll go to starter asset. And the prefabs, I'll add a main camera, player capsule, and the player follow. The player follow has a field, the player follow camera has a field that I need to add what it will follow. So from the player capsule, I'm going to add the player camera root. And I will also nest those in an empty. I'll call it player rig. And I'm going to tag this game object as the player. Let me make sure it's above ground. So I'm going to turn off the main camera, and eventually this is going to be a first-person controller environment. I would delete the main camera. I'll leave it there for now in case I want to use it to look from above or look at how the NavMesh and NavMesh agents are behaving from different perspectives. So I'm going to test this. Okay. In the space, there's these walls. And I can move about. Great. However, it would be nice to have a reticle. So to the hierarchy, I'm going to add a UI and select an image. That will by default create a canvas. The canvas, I'm going to have it be a screen space overlay, so I'll leave that as is. I will turn on this vertex color always in gamma color. The UI scale mode, instead of constant pixel size, I will choose scale with screen size. And I'll use 1920 by 1080 as the default scale. And I will have it expand in case it needs to. Okay. So the image is going to be what the reticle is. So I'm going to have that be 16 by 16 pixels. I could add a sprite instead of using, it's going to be a square, and I'm going to make it a red square. So if I had imported, I don't know, 32 by 32 transparent PNG and wanted to use it as a target or something to be used as a reticle, I could add it to this field. But keeping this short, I'll leave it as is. Oh, it needs to be centered. So let me go back to the image and make sure that the X position is 0 and the Y position is 0. And I will once again test. Okay, so now I have a clue what I'm looking at. Maybe this environment's a little big for this demo, but that's fine. All right. So NavMesh is used in order to define the areas that non-player characters can walk around in, and they can't walk off the edge, for example, or to the walls or through the walls. So with the environment selected, I'm going to right click and scroll down to AI and add NavMesh surface. I'll leave it by the default name. And in the inspector, you can see that the agent type, the default is humanoid. It's going to define walkable areas. And in order to have it applied, I need to click the bake button. So now you can see that there's this blue that is added to the ground. And there's areas near the walls which are not part of the nav mesh, and the perimeter is also not part of the nav mesh. So this will keep characters from walking off over the edge. If I make any changes to it, for example, move this wall, I just have to reselect the nav mesh surface and bake it again. So any changes, additions that I make to the environment, if I want it to affect how the agents move across the environment, I have to rebake it. There is a window, there was a panel that I already have open, but under Window AI Navigation, there's a panel, the navigation panel, which I already have. I put it here next to the inspector. And there's two tabs. There's the agents, and you can see the humanoid is the default. I went and hit the plus sign and added Margaret Atwood's Pagoon. And I can alter the radius, the height. So this can be a lot wider. If we look at the humanoid, the radius is 0.5, the height 2, the step height 0.75, and the max slope that it can walk up is 45 degrees. However, with the Pagoon, I can make the height smaller, maybe 1. I already changed the radius to more than twice, and I brought down the max slope to 30. I also brought down the height of the step that it can go up to 0.2. Now, I'm gonna, to my characters, I'm gonna drag in the mannequin character from Mixamo that I downloaded. And all right, there it is. Now you can see it's kind of gray, so it doesn't have its textures applied. So if I select it and I look over at the inspector, there's the extract textures button. So I need to do this. And I'll go ahead and extract the textures to the same folder where the character is. Okay, so here we have a few different textures, and the normal, let's see, one of these isn't set properly. And I prefer it when there's just an error that I can click fix. Apply. Let's see if I apply it correctly. I'm going to go ahead and place it in my world, in my environment, and put it in front of the player. I already know that it's a bit small, so I'm going to double it in scale. And take a look at what this looks like. Okay, it's a little high up, but it's there. Let's put this up 1. And I'm going to turn it around 180 degrees. Actually, I'll put the height at, okay. So just want to check what it looks like. All right, that looks good. It doesn't have a rigid body, so it doesn't have any physics. In fact, I'll put it higher on the Y and move it a little further back. We can see that it's just kind of floating there. All right, so now I'm gonna build it out, and eventually I want to make this into a prefab. So I'm going to start by adding a rigid body. This adds Unity physics to it, so now it'll have gravity and fall to the ground and through the ground because I haven't added anything to keep it from falling through. Next, I will add a capsule collider. And really, I'm adding the capsule collider not so that it'll keep it from falling through, but because later I want to use the is trigger that's available in the capsule collider component. So I'll test it one more time. And, oh, why is it not falling? Oh, I know why, because I did not edit the capsule collider. It's at its feet. So let's zoom in on it. I'm gonna make the height of the capsule collider 2. And bring it up on the Y to 1. And now it should fall to the ground. So the NavMesh agent has a cylinder, and that's actually what I'm going to use as the collider. It's a built-in collider. So I'm not going to use this capsule collider except as a trigger. So as soon as I turn it on as a trigger, it's no longer being used to keep it from colliding with the ground and keeping it on the ground. So once again, it'll fall through. However, once I add the NavMesh agent component, it adds a cylinder to it, and that cylinder has that function. So here it is, it's a humanoid. I mentioned earlier adding the bagoon. So if this was a different creature, to harvest human organs, then I could have a pig-like creature in here and have it behave differently in the NavMesh, but I'll leave it as the humanoid. So I'll save this. I turned on is trigger, and now if I test it, it falls, it sits there on the ground. I want this animated, so I need to create an animation controller. Back in my assets, I have an animation folder, and I'm going, for the sake of example, really I just want it walking, but for the sake of example, I'm going to add 2 animations, an idle and a walk. And in this same folder, well, actually, before I do that, so Mixamo packs the animations with some other data that isn't necessary. Really, I just want the animation, which is represented by this triangle. So I'm going to select the triangle and click Command D to break it out of this, how it downloads, and do the same with the walking. So here I have the idle and walking, and those are the ones I want. I'm going to delete how I downloaded them from Mixamo. So if I were to double click these, I would see it would open the animation window or timeline for this particular animation. And you can see like all the joints their keyframes and how it animates over time. I'm not going to mess with that. I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm getting an error here. I'm not sure why. See if it comes back up later. So in order to use these animations, I need an animation controller. And I will call it walk underscore anim. You can come up with your own naming rule for these different assets. As far as I know, Unity doesn't have any conventions as far as naming animator controller animations. And if I double click it, it will open my animator window. So let's say I want my character just kind of staying there, idling. I'll add that. I want to make sure that it loops. So I'm going to double click the animation, turn on loop time. Now I can go back to my character, add an animator to it, not an animation, but an animator. The animator has a controller field, and this is where I place the controller that I just created. That just has an idle on it. And I'll test this. Okay. So there it is. Now kind of subtly idling, cautiously. I will, like I said, I want it walking, but I'm going to add a walk cycle to it. So I'm going to use my animator controller to have it initially start with idle, and then I'll make a transition and have it switch to walking animation. Once again, I'm going to make sure that loop time is turned on. And now if I test it, it switches from staying there idly to walking. All right, great. However, for this example, I don't want the idle in there. I just want it walking. So I'm going to delete that and just have it walking. And just check that that's what it's doing. Okay, great. I'm going to name it mannequin. And I'm going to turn it into a prefab. Yeah. There's other things that I'm going to add to it, such as the where it goes. Maybe I will go ahead and add it before I make it into a prefabs, because for this example, for this demo, that's how I intended to use it, was to use this agent control agent control script. It has a public variable transform home where it should go to, and then NavMesh agent, use a NavMesh component, or it accesses the NavMesh component, and agent set destination home position, so where it should go. So I will add the agent control to it. For now, I haven't made the home, but I'll do that next. So in order to see this more easily, I'm gonna turn on the main camera. And I had it already set to this bird's eye view. I just want to center my environment. I think I actually made it a little too big, but that's fine. And I'm going to go to game object, align with view, so that the camera is set to view from this perspective. So I'm going to create another game object. I will have it be a cube. I'll call it target. And I'm going to move it away from. Put it there. And let's see. I'll add a material to it. I have a run already set up. Okay, so I should get an error because I haven't set where the mannequin should go to. Yes. All right. Let's see if I can just use a simple primitive. Save that and test it. All right, so I see it walking and it looks like, so NavMesh agents always take the fastest possible way, and it's gonna walk around the wall this way and go to the target. Yeah, so there it is, stuck in that cube. All right, so I want to I want to spawn a bunch of these, and I want them to go to that target and then be destroyed. So I'm going to add another game object. I will have it be a sphere. And I'm going to place it on the opposite end of these walls. Maybe I'll add a new material. And make it green. And apply it to that sphere. Okay. So I'm going to use, I have a script called spawn. And I'm going to use, I'm going to turn the mannequin into a prefab and have it spawn from this sphere. So I have a empty prefabs folder. I'll go ahead and drag my mannequin into it. Where it wants to go is not set here. It didn't translate. So what I'm going to do is that target, I'm also going to make it into a prefab where it goes to the home base. And add it as where it goes. So now that I have it as a prefab, I actually don't need it here in the, I don't need it in the hierarchy because I'm going to use a script to have it spawn from this green sphere. So I'm going to delete what the prefab is based on because all instances will be generated from, I go into my scripts from this spawn script. Okay, so it's going to look for a specific nav agent. It's going to target an object, and it's going to spawn an agent at the first second of when the project runs, and then it'll continue generating or spawning agents randomly between 2 and 5 seconds. So to the sphere, I will add spawn. So it's wondering what agent and where it goes to. And now that I think about it, maybe I don't even need on my prefab, I may not need the agent control because I'm using the spawn script to tell it where to go to. So I'm gonna try deleting this for now, just from the prefab altogether. And to the sphere, I'm gonna have the nav agent is the mannequin prefab, and where it goes to is that target game object. Okay, so let's see what happens. Oh, I see it spawned, but it's stuck in place. And looks like many are being spawned. All right, so it doesn't know where to go. So I'm gonna once again add that component. Agent control. And where it goes. Now, this target, its location position is based on where it was in the environment when it was turned into a prefab. So if I wanted to reuse this and have it be a different location, I would need to edit the location of that instance of the target with the target in the hierarchy. So if I wanted to change the location, I would need to edit it here. Let's see if that fixed the mannequin, and now it will go somewhere. Okay, great. So now it's walking along. It has a duplicate. You can see the clones being generated here. And they're making their way to the target location. So there's a last thing that I want to add to this. What's happening here is that they're all piling up here, and eventually it's gonna slow your computer. Let's go to target. Yeah. So the thing, there's a script that I included here called destroy object. And what it destroys in the script is based on a tag. So I forgot to give the tag. I give the mannequin a tag, so I need to add that for this destroy other game object to work. But what this will do is the reason I added the capsule collider and turned on the trigger is just so that I could use that script so that they would be destroyed when they touch this red cube. Okay, so I need to go to my prefabs, select the mannequin, make sure that it's tagged as AI, because that's the tag that I'm using on the script. So I created that tag. There's a bunch of default, untagged, respawn, finish, editor only, main camera, player, game controller, cinema machine, target. I added that tag, and yeah, so that's why it's there. You can add as many tags as you need for your projects. So this target game object needs a destroy script. Destroy an object. And now if I test it, hopefully that'll clear each clone of the mannequin from the project as they collide with that cube. Yeah, I should have made this a lot smaller because now it takes a while to see it play out. That red dot is the reticle, I think. I turned on the camera. I don't think I turned off. I didn't turn off the canvas. So if I go to the scene, they're no longer piling up there. We go there and they die. Okay. I want to see this from the perspective of the player. So I'm going to turn off. Once again, I would delete this main camera because the main camera that I want to use is the one nested in the player rig. I'm not even sure where I am in relation to these. Oh, there's one. I'm going to follow them along. So with the nav agents, there is a speed, so you can make them move at different speeds. There's speed variable. Okay, great. So I'm going to stop that. The other things to know is that area. So just like you can add different agents and give them different properties, you can add different areas. So say you wanted a plane or an area in your environment that should act like, say, mud and really slow down the character or any NavMesh character. The cost makes it that many times harder to get across an area. So for example, if I added mud and gave it 3, then it would move 3 times slower than otherwise. Okay, so I'm gonna look at my that prefabs one more time. And I mentioned speed. So you can see that the NavMesh agent has a bunch of properties that you can affect or change. So besides maximum speed, there's this angular speed, maximum turning speed, and degrees while following a path, etc. Okay, that's all I want to share at this time. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.